Right, greetings all, hope this finds you well as always. It's now time for the latest update from the machine shop, what we're up to and what we're on with. And in short, we've got some jobs ready to go out the door, which is the way it should be. First up, we saw this vacuum brake valve last week. What it is there's this disc valve here and then also the body there. Those mating faces have become quite badly scored, and so they were recut to remove all the scoring, and then they've also been given a gentle lap. That's where you can see the occasional, you see the slight mottling in the finish. That's the result of them being lapped together. They just need a last clean, just get the last few bits of lapping paste out of there. And then the other little entertainment we had with it is the top of it. You'll see there's a circular register here. Right, well, the top cover here, which is upside down, sits onto that register. Unfortunately, at some stage, that register had become slightly damaged. I don't know how it had happened. My suspicion is it's been put back together with some muck's got into it, or hasn't been put back together properly. Anyway, the upshot was that register was damaged, and so I ended up spending quite a bit of time going around it with a file, because the problem was it would actually been too much hassle set up in the lathe, because, to be honest, that round surface there would be what I'd use to dial it in. And when that surface has been damaged and isn't round anymore, well, you can't dial it in accurately. So I actually ended up doing it by hand, very carefully with a flat file, just carefully scalp it back round to round, take some dowels that are there as well. And so that is now all done and ready to go. The other big job is this safety valve here. These are actually, they're a two-part unit. You've got the base here, and then you've got the body here. The base is threaded into the body. If we look in the top, you'll see the thread down the bottom of there. Well, that thread had got damaged at some stage, and so it wouldn't screw on. So, again, a nice slow and steady, careful bit of hand chasing, and the thread's cleaned out lovely, and it's back together as it should be. So that's also ready to go. We've also got the steam heat valve of 76079, which we saw a couple of weeks ago because it needed those two new rings. Well, making the rings was the easy bit. Reassembling it proved to be slightly challenging, but it's now reassembled. Whoever takes that piston out next time, they're putting it back in themselves. It's now reassembled and ready to go, so that can be sent out, ready to go. In other news, Brian's busily at it with the bits that we saw the other week for the weighing gear. He's got a load of blanks set up ready to go. He's got the angle vise set up ready to go again, so he can just basically put a cut on and plough it through. The idea here is he's actually machined them in pairs, so you will end up with a matched pair. And so, although they may not be absolutely identical between pairs, individually within the pair, they will be absolutely identical. And he's got two there, the two first trial set that he's got finished. And basically, to be honest, today he's been on with actually setting up all the jigs and all the tooling to do the job. And now, tomorrow, he'll just, well, it takes half the time to set it up, and yeah, the rest of it takes no time at all, so I'll get that ploughed out tomorrow as well. He's doing grand. In other volunteer, Craig, he's been in and he's made a start on Repton's piston packings. What he's doing here, we've seen these before again. What he's doing is he's splitting them into, he's already machined these rings, the outer ring and the inner ring. He's now splitting them into 3 segments, and then he can, you offset the inner segment and then rivet them so they can hold together. So that's another job that he's well on with. So that's happening as well. In other news, what else have we got we can look at? Must be something. Yeah, of course there is. There's always something in here. We're busy. Tom's Goulding, the one and the only, has been in this week, and he's done yet more NDT work. Absolutely spot on as always. So these are most of the bits off 76079. So we've got combination levers, we've got some other bits, we've got yet more over there, valve crossheads and whatnot. We've got 2 die blocks and a random rod brass that I'm not quite sure what the rod brass is off, but we won't ask about that. And then he's also got yet more rods off 76, which are all NDT, non-destructive tested, die penetration, as I've talked about before. and they're all ready to go. So the next job for me is to go through all of this, just like I did for 80136, and identify what pins and what bushes, because we've got all the motion pins in the box over there, apart from stuff like gradient pins and little M pins, and that can all now be gone through, measured up. We've got a series of established limits and fits that were published by the Locomotive Manufacturers Association that we work to, and so it's very simple. If it's within those limits and fits for ovality and wear and whatnot, then it stays in the engine. If it's outside of those limits, it's scrapped and replaced with a new part. So there's that. So that's the next job to get on with. And then yet another job that's coming on is Adrian Dennis and his merry band have been busily casting white metal bushes. Now what we've got here is these are off 825, and these are what I call retreads. That is, bushes that have already been cast once and will go again. And so there's there's 5 here, because there's 4 in a pile there and 1 there with a stuck core. Oh, goody. Anyway, there's 5 there ready to go, and so what the next job will be to get the crank pin measurements, and then these can be bored out to size. There's also another 2 bushes that are being renewed, because like as I talked about on 76079 a bit earlier in the year, the rod brasses have got to the stage where they're working loose in the rod, and so they'll need renewing. Now, one thing that I have found of interest with 825, which I haven't actually seen on another locomotive, and I can't see it on that brass, but we can see it on this one. Now, normally, these brasses are prevented from rotating by a vertical or horizontal, depending which way you look at it, square key. Because this is a southern region, so they do things differently down there, this is something different. Instead of a vertical key, the bush instead has this groove milled into it. Now, into that groove locates a taper pin. The taper pin sits where my finger is. It's a bit like a Dutch key. It's sort of half in and half out of the space between the bush and the rod, half in the rod, half in the bush. And so the idea there is that stops the bush rotating. Now, I've never actually seen this before on a rod brass, because I've never done rod brasses on 825 before. And so it's been slightly unusual for me, just finding that. I'm thinking, oh, that's different. So something to catch us unawares, and something a bit different to look at. But yeah, they just need crank pin measurements, and then those 4 plus that can be bored out to finish size. I have a horrible feeling I'm going to have to machine that core out. Hopefully Adrian's just gone, oh, I couldn't get on the press, which is fair enough, but yeah, we can do it. It's just not something I'd like to do if I've got a choice. So that's another job we're up to, and then, as I waved the camera at it before, there's some bushes for 76079, they're waiting as well, and I think we haven't measured up the rods, or have we? I can't remember. I don't think there's any to do on 80136, but I will stand corrected if there are. So there we are, and hopefully Dan Middleton's coming back in next week, and he can make a start on doing some piston rings as well. So as you can see, it's all pretty busy in here. As I said, this is our busy time of the year, the winter season. It's when we're always running around, rebuilding everything. People say to us, oh, you'll be quiet over the winter, there's no trains running. Yeah, there's no trains running. That means we can take all the engines to pieces and deal with all the problems. And we are doing that. So anyway, folks, I hope you found it educational, informative as always. Now take care, and I'll see you around.